going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to Empowered Living, taking your life to the next level. I'm John Hyatt. I'm the coach on the square. This is where I do coaching and one-on-one sessions with individual clients, and I hold classes in here. I also do a leadership mastermind every Wednesday morning from 7:30 to 8:30. Free coffee, $10. Come out and join us. Stacy's been there. I think she found it beneficial.
I did.
Yeah, great. This is a donation basis class, so there's a blue bowl over by the coffee maker. Please feel free to share your generous abundance with me as I share my generous abundance with you, and as we share our generous abundance with each other. It's much appreciated. What we do is we go around the room, just say your first name, and if there's something you want to talk about, something you want to celebrate, or something that's on your mind, then please share that briefly, and then we'll get started. And would you start us off with that?
Sure. My name is Stacy, and I don't know what I want to talk about. I just came. I just needed the empowerment of a group energy.
Great.
I'm Arch, and I'm celebrating letting go and looking for the future and in a good perspective. Things are a lot clearer now than they've been in quite a while, so
Great.
that's good.
Hey everyone, my name is Raj. I don't know what I'm going to celebrate. At 31st March, yes, that's my birthday.
All right.
But yeah, so other than that, I don't have any celebration.
It's okay.
All right. That's okay. We're celebrating that you're here. How's that?
Thank you for coming. We would have just
Hi
fine.
everyone, this is Smita. I came here, I wanted to look for the empowering environment, and I want to gain more knowledge, the positive thoughts towards, which will help in my life.
Okay. Great.
Right. I'm Gina, and I'm just happy to be here.
I'm Kara, and I'm up for my third final interview this week, so things are going well with that. So it's
Excellent.
definitely a celebration. And I had a really great week, and I owe a lot of it to last Monday. I started letting go of a lot of things that I had attachments to
Great.
that were bringing me down. So
Great.
good week.
Awesome.
I'm Suzanne, and I'm just here to listen and learn.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Give yourself a hand. And the reason we clap is to celebrate the fact that we're here, that we're alive, and that we're right where we're supposed to be in this learning environment of life. The biggest thing to remember is that we really just are learning and practicing. This is not a test. Contrary to popular belief, this is not a test. It's simply an opportunity for life to play out and for us to learn from what happens to us in our life. Some of those things we contribute to and create directly. Other things we participate in an indirect mode as it relates to somebody else. And we are always learning no matter what's happening. Whether we're up or we're down, we're learning. Whether we're on the middle road, we're still learning. Whether something has been tragic or fantastic, we're learning in the process. What happens though is we forget that we're learning. And we think that it is a test, and that there's something we have to pass in order to qualify as deserving, good enough, being a winner, or we end up being a loser, or we fail and we're no good and we're undeserving. We have this constant illusion of measurement going on in our minds that we're always playing out. And that typically comes because from the day that we're born, we're being measured. You know, we're being measured by our parents. We're measuring the affection and the food and the attention we get from our parents as whether it meets our needs. They're looking at us to whether we meet their needs. And yes, bless you, we can project needs on the smallest individual, as well as the smallest can project needs onto the largest. And that happens at an unconscious level most of the time as well. It's something we're not trained to catch or pay attention to or to question. It just unfolds. But that's part of life. Part of life is we are human beings. Human beings, by design, are supposed to be learning. Human beings, by design, are not perfect. So that person in the back of your mind that you are projecting or expecting that they show up in some way in order to mean something to you, some type of perfect way, let that go. Give yourself permission, set yourself free, detach from a demand of perfection. Now, like I think I talked about last week, is Vince Lombardi, the coach of the Green Bay Packers back in 1959, in his very first meeting with the team as head coach. He said, "Gentlemen, we are going to relentlessly pursue perfection. Knowing that we cannot attain it, we will pursue perfection relentlessly anyway, because by pursuing perfection, we might catch excellence." So it's about being excellent, which is a total different connotation than being perfect. Excellence means growth. We're always achieving, we're always striving to do our best. Each time is a new time to try. Perfection is this false measure of whatever. You can't define it. Perfection is totally subjective to the person attempting to achieve it, because there's really no such thing. There is no such thing as perfect anything. But somehow we think that there is, because somebody told us that there was. Or we pick up through the culture that it is something that we're supposed to strive for, is this idea of perfection. And if it's not perfect, see, this is where we go in a different direction. If it's not perfect, we think there's something wrong with us. If my job isn't perfect, if my boss doesn't treat me perfect, if my spouse or my kid doesn't treat me perfect, if the traffic's not perfect, or the weather's not perfect, or the politicians or the economy are not perfect, it must mean something about me is wrong. That there's something off about me. And that totally throws us out of kilter and creates stress, anxiety, discouragement, resentment, anger, because who can compete for that? I remember as a little boy, on the day I was baptized at 8 years old, I'm riding my bike down the road, down the dirt road, and I'm like, I literally had this thought, I'm going to be the perfect boy. Now, I was 8 years old. I really didn't even know what perfect meant, except from hearing about it in a religious context, which can be very narrow depending on the religion that you grow up in, and very demanding and controlling and rigid in a lot of different ways. But that was my goal. Well, I know that that belief was something I picked up on myself, but I knew, now that I look back on it, it served me because I wanted to do well, and that was included under the umbrella of perfection. But when I wasn't meeting some measurement of perfection that I thought I was supposed to meet, I would think poorly about myself, and that would hold me back. That would shut me down. That would make me unavailable to relationships, unavailable for academics. I sucked at math, probably because I had some illusion that I had to be perfect at math. So I didn't try, I didn't like it, I didn't pursue it, I did what I had to get by. If I would have had a different perspective of math, and that I could get better, and that I could practice liking it and have a different experience, I could have very well had a different experience with math in high school. But I had this perfection umbrella that nobody else, my parents, My parents never said, John, you have to be perfect. They never said that. But it was something that I adopted for myself. And so that set me up for being unavailable in a lot of ways. So release this idea of perfection and chase excellence instead. Be excellent to one another. Be excellent to yourself. Strive for excellence in your job. Strive for excellence in your family. Strive for excellence in your relationships. It's that shift that can create a powerful shift into who we are and what we do. I was meeting with an executive client of mine who had this perfection umbrella that he thought he had to perform under. And I totally got it, totally related to it. But when we talked about creating this shift from perfection to excellence, it changed the whole way he approached presentations he's been making for 20 years. Because he would fill up his presentations with a lot of data and information that turned out to be not as relevant to the presentation that he was thinking that he was giving. In fact, it was distracting. But because of this thing to be perfect, I've got to show it all. If I don't show all the information in this presentation, then the presentation is not perfect. Okay? But once he learned and understood that he could pursue excellence in a presentation instead of perfection, he goes, it's going to be excellent if I share only what's relevant. Less is more. And that changed his whole energy around how he approached giving presentations. And so it can have a big impact, such a small shift. And remember, this is just a 1 degree shift. It's looking at perfection in a different way and going, you know what? I don't have to look at perfection that way anymore because it doesn't fit. It's really never fit. It has always kind of set me up for failure because it's unattainable. Now I can let it go. Now I can just be myself. Now I can pursue excellence simply based on who I am, what's going on in my life, the sum total of what I've learned so far, and simply trying to do the best that I can with what I know. Isn't that typically what we're all basically doing anyway?
We should be.
Should be. Okay? We're doing the best with what we know. And what I mean is even if I think I know I want to do better, but then for some reason I don't, there's a lot of reasons that could be in the way of me doing better. We can show up unavailable in 3 different ways. I can be unavailable emotionally with my feelings. I can be unavailable intellectually. And I can be unavailable with certain skills. Here's an example of emotional unavailability. If I'm really sad about something, a past experience in my life, something that's going on in the present moment, and I'm in this state of deep grief or deep sadness, being in that emotional state can make me unavailable to engage with you in a relationship that benefits us, or that works well for you and works well for me. Why? Because I can be consumed with this undercurrent of sadness that's flowing through in my life. Okay? Same thing with resentment or anger. If I'm playing through that, how available are we when we're in anger mode? We're not very available.
That's what I have been living with for a few months.
Sure.
The emotions that I've been living through are not, there's no anger, there's anger towards myself, there's resentment, and there's just, I've just been emotionally totally closed off. It's just things have just wrapped themselves up. But it's been a rough couple of months, but now I finally got to the point where it's like go time.
No, he's been making progress.
Trying.
And it is a process. And it is about progress. That's why Terrence the turtle is out here in the middle. Okay. Terrence, I just named it on the spot.
Just
I'm gonna
now?
call him Terrence. I just am. I just decided.
TT.
He's been nameless. He's been nameless to date. So
Hey,
now
either
he's
that or
Terrence.
Tony the third. If you're Italian, it's Tony.
So, Terrence here is always moving, and we're always moving and learning, and everything is a process. Even when it doesn't feel like we're moving, we can be moving, but we don't know that we are. Okay, sometimes we feel stuck, but even within that stuckness, movement is going on because we're trying to sort through different thoughts and feelings and emotions about where we are. But when we're looking at unavailable or available, remember, unavailable means we're closed. Available means open. If I'm available, I can participate in an optimal way. I can still participate if I'm unavailable. It's just not optimal. I'm going to get less than desired results or results that I don't want. Okay? Still creates a learning opportunity. Okay? But if I'm unavailable, it goes to me being closed and not able to engage fully with what's going on. So emotionally, we can be available or unavailable. If I'm open to my feelings emotionally, and I'm safe within my own self with my own feelings, I can be more available and open with you about you and your feelings. Okay? But if I'm closed emotionally to myself, see, availability and unavailability first occurs inside. Inside. Then it occurs outside. And so one question to ask yourself is, emotionally speaking, am I available or unavailable? And that can be, am I emotionally available at work? Am I emotionally available with my spouse or my partner? Am I emotionally available with my child? Am I emotionally available with my friends? It's a good question to ask. Intellectual availability kind of deals with my thinking, my thoughts, my beliefs, my perspectives. If I have a certain perspective, if I believe that it's your goal to hurt me in some way, and that is my thought and that is my belief, that thought or belief makes me unavailable for a relationship with you. Okay? And it impacts how I show up relative to you. And of course, that's going to impact how you show up relative to me.
Can you be unemotionally available for yourself?
Can you say that question again?
Can you be unavailable emotionally to yourself?
Absolutely. In fact, most people are to some degree, and how that shows up is when our REAL self is low. Okay, so your respected, esteemed, accepted, loved self. Okay, if I am low on self-respect, okay, I'm going to be emotionally unavailable for respect. My feelings are going to indicate resentment, shame, guilt, unworthy, not deserving, not good enough, disrespectful thoughts about and feelings about myself. Okay? And so I'm unavailable emotionally to myself because I'm not able to understand myself, so to speak. I'm not able to relate to myself in a healthy way. I'm not open to myself. I'm closed. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, sure does.
So
I know I'm living it.
yeah, and the same thing with esteem, acceptance, and love. Okay? That's why emotional availability has to first start within us. If I'm closed to myself, meaning if my beliefs and feelings and words about who I am how I am, why I am, where I am, when I am, are low energy vibration that keep me closed in fear, okay? They keep me shut down. They keep me unavailable. Therein is the sign and indicator that I'm unavailable to myself. And then it's no wonder why, if I'm unavailable within myself,
You can't be available.
I can't be available to you. In fact, I'm going to reflect back to you and interact with you to the level of my unavailability. So if I show up, if I'm emotionally unavailable because I don't have a high respect for myself, and I disrespect my own self with my thoughts and feelings and words and actions and behaviors about myself, I'm going to treat you with disrespect. Okay? Which can show up as a totally codependent behavior. That I might make you responsible, that I might hold you up on some pedestal. Well, that's not respectful to put somebody up on a pedestal that they can't maintain or achieve or be, right? That's disrespectful to them. So that's just another example. But that can show up and impact who I am and how I am in the present moment with you. Same thing, if I believe that I'm rejected and not accepted, okay, how can I accept you? How can I let you and recognize your acceptance of me? How can I let that in? I can't let it in. I'm closed to your acceptance of me because I'm unable to accept myself. All these things with the self in front of it, guess where they come from? They come from here. You can't give me self-respect, and you're not supposed to. You can't give me esteem, acceptance, or love. You're not supposed to. Okay? But I might want you to try, and I might make you responsible for all of that for me. But that's because I'm so low on it, I can't provide it for myself. And I'm going to then put on you some hyper responsibility to take care of me and my feelings. That's called codependence. Okay?
So then you would actually, what you would do is try to deal with the other person, since you've had this feeling of self-guilt because of maybe something that the way you acted them. You're actually going to go ahead and you're going to try to put them on a level pedestal. You're going to bring them way up, which is something that's going to probably make them feel that you're not being as honest as you possibly can with them.
Sure.
In other words, it's like you went from this to this,
Right.
and it's like, why are you doing this?
Or I'll do the same thing. Because I disrespect myself, guess what I'm going to do to you? I'm going to disrespect you. See, I'm not available for showing up for respect. I'm unavailable for respect. And so I'm unavailable to myself for respect. These are like narcissistic people, criminals, whatever, people that are disrespectful to others first are disrespectful to themselves. Okay? And they mirror that. And so I'm going to project onto you disrespect because that's what I'm available for. And so emotionally, that's how it works. Intellectually, it's about thoughts and beliefs and knowledge. Okay? I can be unavailable intellectually if I don't know enough about you and your story and what's going on, because I don't want to hear it and I'm closed, I don't have access to information that can help me show up available. Does that make sense? My beliefs or my thoughts about myself, you, a particular topic. I can be intellectually unavailable. I had this conversation with my son the other day. He's a college student and he's dating and things like that. We're talking about different characteristics. of a partner. And he wants to go to law school, and he's majoring in statistics, so he's one of these high intellectual, he's a smart kid. So I said, well, how do you find, dating different girls? And he goes, well, some are, more mentally engaging, intellectually engaging, and others are not. And I said, well, you can create a category for that and call it intellectually available. Now, it doesn't mean somebody who doesn't engage on that is a bad person, but he's simply measuring what would be a fit for him would be somebody who values intellectual conversation, intellectual topics, intellectual engagement in a different way. Some people are not available to high, mentally challenging or intellectual conversations. That's why you have scientists, and that's why you have ballet dancers. Neither one is wrong, they're just different. Typically, the engineer is not intellectually available for understanding the arts.
Ballet,
Whatever. Okay?
like that.
So I can be available or unavailable depending on how I think and what I think about, and the amount of education that I have. I might be completely willing to become available, more intellectually available. I just might not have had the educational opportunities in order to practice and engage my brain in thinking in different things. So I can be emotionally available, but I might be intellectually lower. And availability runs this way. I have an infinite, these are infinity symbols. It's an infinite scale of, availability and unavailability, and where we can show up on any given day, in any given moment, on any given criteria, like being here for this meeting. I can be unavailable or available for participating in a class. If I'm a student, I can be available or unavailable, and all physically, I might be tired. I'm not physically available to sit in a class. I'm going to go to sleep. I can fall asleep very easily. Okay?
I deal with that. I'm an instructor at the Institute of Maintenance. Deal with that. All these things.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, today I was sitting there subbing with a group of people in their 20s and 30s, and there's 3 or 4 guys like early, and they're laying on, they're sleeping.
Sure.
It's the middle of the day. I'm like, jeez, guys.
So that's a good example of, physical availability is part of it too. There's a lot of different categories, okay? But I can be physically unavailable for a class. I can be emotionally unavailable for a class. Why? My feelings are on something else. I can be intellectually unavailable. I'm thinking about something else. I can be unavailable with my skills. This kind of backs onto the intellectual part, but I can be totally willing to communicate with you emotionally and intellectually, but I might not have the communication skill set to communicate in an optimal way with you to solve a problem. Okay? So that can be fixed by me recognizing in that, maybe I should take a class in communication. Maybe I can read some books on how to communicate, on how to listen and how to talk. See what I'm saying? So by increasing my skill set, I can increase my availability for something. Okay? Now, why is all this important? This is important because the quality of the experience that we have in the present moment is distinctly and proportionate to whether we are available or unavailable, and at some point in between for the experience that we're trying to have and the results that we are wanting. Okay? If I want to go to a class and get something out of it, I have to approach it of I intend to show up available for the class. That requires me to go, where I might be unavailable. Oh, I'm thinking about this, or I've got my phone here and I need to turn it off, and I'm going to put all of this stuff on the side, and I'm going to be mentally engaged and available in this particular class because I want to get the most results out of it. Okay? If it's a conversation with somebody important to me, intention is important because we're powerful creators. I want to create and take responsibility for and intentionally and deliberately create conditions for a significant and important conversation to take place with somebody that's important to me, with the goal of reaching an understanding, both of us being listened and heard, both of us sharing our point of view, an expression of love or cooperation being developed. Those are the results. So I want to show up available for communication because of the results that I want to get from communicating with you. So that helps me go, is there anywhere that I might be unavailable for this conversation? Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I haven't studied the material that I need to study or know about before the conversation. Yes, I have no comfort and I'm afraid to say I'm sorry, or to apologize, or to ask for forgiveness. Okay? I'm angry. I'm resentful. I'm critical. Those things can make me unavailable for a conversation with you that on a deeper level I really want to go well, but I'm unavailable for it emotionally, intellectually, and skill-wise. Look, this stuff, all of these things are happening in our unconscious mode and we're not even aware that they're happening all the time. Every single thing. Are you available or unavailable? And it's a good engagement to ask yourself those questions, to say, am I available for this? And it's important to honor your preferences about what you're available for and what you're not available for. It's okay to be not available for ballet. I don't like it. I'm okay with it. I don't go to it a lot. I don't pursue it. I don't hang out with ballet dancers. Okay? So, because it's not my preference, I'm probably not available for season ticket to the Atlanta Ballet. Okay? See what I mean?
I'd love to see it.
You know, but I might be more available for season tickets to the Falcons or the Braves. Okay? So it's about preference. Now, can I make myself available for the occasional night at the ballet? Yeah. Okay? But that requires me deliberately going, I want to be available for the ballet experience. I want to observe it. I want to get a feel for it. I want to immerse myself in the music. I want to hold the hand of my girlfriend sitting next to me. I want to enjoy all the magic. And because if I'm going to do something, I want to make it count. I want it to be enjoyable. So I want to show up available for it. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's important to know what your preferences are. And when it comes to things like this, you go, for example, I am not available. I am unavailable for disrespect. Okay? That means I pay attention to myself when I start to think about feelings that might feel disrespectful to myself. I pay attention to those thoughts, immediately attempt to release them, okay, and replace them with thoughts that reinforce self-respect. In my behavior, I bring respect to the table. If somebody else comes in and starts to demonstrate disrespect for me, I'm unavailable for disrespect. So when I see something like that, I have a boundary already that says, no thank you. This isn't going to work. let's go our separate ways. And so I cut that cord, and I have a boundary. That's why boundaries are important. Boundaries start to come in around what we're available and unavailable for, especially when it deals with things that we don't like, or that are not comfortable or safe for us, or are not within the context of our preference. Okay? And so it's about understanding who you are and what you want and what's a fit for you, that you go, this is who I am. This is how I want to show up available. This is who I want to be. And by focusing on me showing up available, I'm not consciously thinking that I'm unavailable for disrespect, because the bulk of my energy is focused on being available for respect. So I focus on what I want. Is everybody with me? By focusing on what I want and making that my primary drive, the odd times disrespect pops up on my path, I know immediately what to do, and it doesn't stick around. Like a magnet, I'm gonna repel it. It's gonna repel.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not gonna stick around in my experience very long, because I'm unavailable for it. And because I'm only available for respect, I want to attract respect. And again, this is where the law of attraction comes in as well. It's all about energy. The more I show up available for what I want, emotionally, intellectually, skills, physically, and in other ways, the higher I'm going to vibrate, and the stronger that attraction is going to be to pull to me people and experiences and opportunities that are aligned with that vibration. Okay? Now, it's not a 100% thing, because there's no such thing as perfect. But when something comes along that doesn't vibrate the same way I'm vibrating, and I experience it, I'm going to learn from it. The good thing is it's not going to stick around in my experience for very long, because I'm going to be paying attention. I'm going to go, no, this is not a fit. Thank you for reminding me, universe, of what I don't want and what I do want. Thank you for reminding me of the value of respect. Whew, I'm going to let that person or that experience go. And so by doing this exercise and getting clarity about who you are, that's why it's so important to get really clear about who you are. How do you show up available? What's important to you? What do you like? What don't you like? And then build the base on what you're available for and how that shows up and what that looks like, feels like, smells like, tastes like, sounds like. And by focusing on that, you're able to experience a deeper, richer, and more satisfying experience, regardless of what you're involved in. Do you have something else?
John, you're talking about being self-aware.
Yes.
You must be self-aware of you and your surroundings. The majority of people don't know they're self-aware.
Right.
We're here getting enlightened on self-awareness, which is the whole thing. Because, you teach this, you're training everybody to see it, but most people don't see it. They live their lives, it comes in and they just don't pay attention to it. They're not trained in order to be able to see it. Right. See, coming here and learning this, you have an advantage over a lot of it.
We have an opportunity to practice it. David, thank you, Arch. Absolutely. And so this whole thing is a exercise in self-awareness. Because self-awareness is about observation and starting to pay attention first to what's going on inside here. It's going, oh, isn't it interesting that I'm sad all the time? Or that I'm angry? What's all that about? Instead of getting angry that I'm angry, which makes me unavailable for finding solutions to my anger, okay? Instead of getting sad that I'm sad, instead of getting depressed that I'm depressed, okay? Instead of feeling bad that I feel bad. Those things, what do those things do? They keep us closed. They make us unavailable. I can't figure out the source and the source of my emotion and the healing required to move through it if I feel sad that I'm sad. Because I'm not allowed to be sad. There must be some perfect standard out there that says you shouldn't be sad, you're not supposed to be sad, you should be happy. Or for whatever reason that causes sadness shouldn't have happened in the first place, therefore. Okay? So we get in that endless mind loop again. And that takes us out of availability and back into unavailability. And then we wonder why people engage at us, why our relationships are a certain way. Or why our conversations or job situation or health is a certain way. When much of that is rooted into how we're feeling, how we're thinking, the words that we're saying, the behaviors that we have, and the extent that we're available or unavailable for what we want. So the first two questions to ask yourself are, what do I want? And then number two is, am I available for it? And this can be applied to anything. It can be a sales. It can be a client. It can be business related, money related. It can be family related, spouse related. It can be pet related. It can be friend related. Whatever it is, what do you want, and are you available for what you want? And that comes from getting real clear about what you want. So it's, for example, it's more than just saying, I want to have a loving relationship with somebody. Okay, do you know how vague that is? Do you know that that tells me nothing? Okay, because a loving relationship, there are people in abusive relationships that have the thought that there's a loving relationship going on. Okay? And so it requires more than that. And it requires a deeper understanding and self-awareness to dive into what you really want so that you can start to say, whoa, this is what I want. Wow, isn't it interesting that John Hyatt is totally unavailable for what he wants? Because he believes he can't have it. He believes it's not out there. He doesn't believe he has the skills, the intellect, the emotional alignment, the connections, the opportunities, the health, the past. Whatever it is, all the reasons I can think of that I might close and shut down on something that I really want are the very reasons that make me unavailable for it. And until I flip those around, until I call BS on myself and flip all of that around and say, that's BS, I can change my thought there, that's BS, I can change my words there, that's BS, if I want to go get that to achieve that, I can go get it. Okay, and I'm just telling myself a lie to keep myself unavailable. Okay, and so all those reasons that stir up fear and anxiety and stress and doubt about who you are and what you want just consistently play out and roll around, and we just swim around in it like, and we're under the illusion that we're safe and that it feels good and that it's just the way we are and things aren't supposed to be any or that things can't be any different because fill in the blank, and we just swim around in the old stories that keep us stuck. And all the time while we're swimming in that pool, we're totally unavailable for anything outside the pool. Okay? And totally unavailable for what's in the pool down the road, which is so much bigger, so much better, so much nicer. They serve drinks by the side of the pool with umbrellas in it. Okay?
Perfect.
The water's perfect. They bring towels. They have cabanas. Instead, you're tripping over broken concrete and scraping your knee, and the water's too shallow, and whatever it might be. But until you broaden your horizon and go, what do I want, and am I available for it, we're going to repeat the same emotional patterns. We're going to repeat the same conversations. We're going to repeat the same behaviors. a year from now we're going, man, wasn't the same thing happening last year? In fact, wasn't it happening 5 years ago? Didn't I already have this relationship 10 years ago? You know, why has nothing moved or changed? It's because I haven't moved or changed. My availability and unavailability meter has been stuck and frozen, you know, for the last 10 years. Okay? And until we move that, until something happens to move it, we go, this doesn't work for me. This does not work for me anymore. This doesn't work for me anymore. This thought does not serve me. It does not move me forward. It does not feel good. It does not make me happy. It does not bring me peace, clarity, or confidence. So why do we want to hold on to things that have little to no value? But yet we hold on. Because there's the illusion of comfort there, the illusion of safety. And oh, as long as I hold on and I'm a victim, I don't have to take responsibility. I can blame the government, the politicians, the ex-spouse, my kids, my boss, the economy, on whatever I want. And I don't have to take any responsibility. And I can remain as unavailable in that state. But until you get clear on what do you really want, and then start to think from this standpoint of, wait a minute, okay, I want it. Okay, I want $1 million. I want a new job. I want a promotion. I want a new car. And you go, am I available for it? And you ask yourself, what blocks in my thinking, intellect, feelings, and skills are in the way of me showing up really fully available to this? And you identify those. And you go, I need a new skill. That belief doesn't work. That behavior's always been self-destructive. Time to change it. And we start to identify, again, like Arch said, through a higher sense of self-awareness about what's going on up here. We start to observe and get curious about our thoughts. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Where did that come from? Why do I always think that way after this happens? Play that game. The next time this happens, you will have a thought or a belief or an emotion that will come flooding in, and it will be 30 years old, okay, or 50 years old, okay, and it will have been around forever. The same feeling, the same gut thing. Oh, there it is again. Yep, there it is again. Oh man, how long has that been around? That's when you go, oh, isn't it interesting that I have that? What's the impact of that? Makes me unavailable, keeps me stuck, no service, no value whatsoever, keeps me doubtful, keeps me afraid, whatever. Is that what you want? No. I'm ready to release that thought and replace it with a new one that works.
Human emotion is a horrible thing sometimes. Your inner fears, your inner emotions, what you've learned in through your life, and those fears that you just put them into your life some of it has to do with how you were treated when you were young.
Absolutely.
How your parents treated you.
Sure.
How you came about treated others.
Sure.
That is something that gets in you, and unless you're strong to be able to get out of it, it stays with you, because it's been with me.
Sure.
Since I can remember, since I was 7 or 8 years old.
Sure.
The same issues that I've had, that I'm learning about now, have been there.
Sure.
And the thing about it is, you have to be willing to accept that you have these.
Yep.
And that you say, okay, well, these are negative towards me. I need to do something about it.
Right.
But until it's just like somebody like an alcoholic. Unless he faces the fact that he is an alcoholic, and he says, okay, I'm an alcoholic, but I want to do something about it.
Right.
Until you face that and you say, okay, I want to change my behavior, you're never going to get out of that loop.
Yep. That's right. That's exactly
That's
right.
killer.
Until we identify the thought, assess its impact, and then have a desire for change, everything will stay exactly the same. I can know I have a problem. I can even see its impact. Oh, I've got this belief or this behavior, and oh, it sabotages this every time. And if that's as far as I go with it, nothing's going to move. 5 or 10 years from now, I'll have the exact same, yep, and then I might come along with, well, that's just the way I am. And you know what? People just need to get over it, okay? And accept that that's the result that they're going to get from me, all right? And, yeah, that gets you certain results in life. No doubt about that, okay? But if you go, identify it, assess the impact, and then this really doesn't work. This has never really worked for me. Is there another thought I can have that's different than the one I have? Is there another belief that I can have that's different from the belief that drives this? And once you start to explore that, tons of different doors become available for you to walk through. But it does take that assuming responsibility, 100% responsibility for it, and to get out of judgment on it. You don't have to stay in shame and guilt about it. You just say, isn't that interesting? Is that what I want? If I could be different, how would I be different, and how would I get there? If I look back and again I'm angry that I'm angry, or sad that I'm sad, or feeling bad that I feel bad, no movement takes place. We stay in shame, guilt, judgment, all those self-defeating behaviors for a long time. And then we're stuck. Any kind of questions or other comments about kind of what we've talked about a little bit tonight? How's it playing out? Who feels unavailable in something that they want to be available for? Who feels available for something and they're really feeling good about that? Tell us about that.
I am. I think in the last week a lot has happened where I realized that I was holding on to past issues in my life, and it was even though that part was still hurting, I was bringing it to my present, and in doing so, I was self-destructing, and I was pushing my issues off onto other people in ways that I wasn't proud of, and I didn't like that it wasn't changing because I wasn't changing it. So I tried to not just change the 1 degree, but try to determine the timing of when I become aware.
Excellent.
So I know the second that I'm starting to feel something, I can say, no, that's not good for me. I can't think that way anymore.
Yes.
And I think catching it quickly makes me make a difference in it quickly.
Yes.
Not be as critical, because I had gotten very cynical and critical over certain areas of life, and it's not who I've ever been. And I didn't know why, but I do know why. There was things I've been carrying that I said I'd put away, but I haven't.
Right.
And I can't fool myself.
Right. Thank you for sharing. That's a perfect example. That's a perfect example.
First, I've done that, like I've let go, and so when those thoughts do come, I say, oh, thank you for coming, goodbye. You know, and like I acknowledge, I say, thanks for showing up, see ya. And it really helps to be able to recognize that and just let it go and not do all that self-beat up.
And it's amazing how fast just that one little change
Yes.
makes everything better.
Excellent.
And
This is where Kara's starting to pay attention more, yes? You're starting to observe, yes? So when you start to observe, because we always think in words.
Well, I think
Okay.
you start seeing your power that you have, that you didn't feel, you thought it was out of your control, but it really, some of it is in your control.
How you
Yes,
experience it
yes,
is under your
yeah.
control. And so Kara, paying attention, watching what comes across the stage, right? Her stage of thoughts, okay, and beliefs, and she starts to go, by paying attention, she goes, oh, this is coming again. Oh, this doesn't feel good. Oh, this really isn't true anyway. Oh, you can leave now, and I can replace it now with a new thought that feels good, that takes me in a different direction, that opens a door instead of closes a door. And this does take practice. But I guarantee you, the more you start paying attention, if you just set the intention to pay attention, set the intention to pay attention, and start to observe, and go, oh, is that what I want? No. Is that true? No, not really. Now that I really think about it, no, not so much. Okay? What is true? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up anyway, even though this might have happened? Who do I want to be? Did you know that who we are when we're going through something is always greater than what's happening to us? Who we are when we're going through something is always greater than what's happening to us. It's who we are in the divorce, okay, that is greater than the divorce. It's who we are if we get cancer or a sickness that is greater than the sickness. It's who we are when we're experiencing success that is even greater than the success that we're achieving. Okay? We lose that. We lose sight of that. Because when something happens, especially that's challenging and tough, we get closed in, we get afraid. And we go, this is terrible. And we start focusing on this. Instead of saying, who do I want to be? How am I going to show up available going through this? And then by doing that, we can instantly shift the energy. And it doesn't mean things might not still be painful or hurtful or whatever, or tough or grieving. It doesn't remove all of those human emotions that we're going to experience. But we experience them in a different way. And we show up available and relevant to other people in a completely different way than we have in the past. So congratulations on your intention and your choice. Is everything's a choice. To start to pay attention and go, I'm going to pay attention. And when old stuff comes across, I'm going to challenge it. It is not going to get by me without being challenged, checked, assessed, and moved out and replaced. It's a process to replace your thoughts and your words because we're used to thinking in words in a certain way. Especially with the standpoint of, I don't want. I don't want this job. I don't want this characteristic in a spouse. I don't want this about money. I don't want this about my health. I don't want this to happen when I go visit my family. We get all wrapped up in what we don't want, and we lose sight of what we do want. So we attract more of what we don't want. You can say you don't want something, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get more of what you don't want. It's only when you flip it and say, instead of, I don't want to fight with you, I say, I want a peaceful conversation. Imagine the difference if people would stop saying, I don't want to fight, and say, I'm available for a peaceful, open conversation. Are you? Huge difference. Instant change in energy. Instant magnetic power. Instant potential for a result that may have never even been contemplated by saying, I don't want to fight. But saying, I don't want to fight is habitual. We say it all the time. We hear it all the time. It's on TV. It's, wherever. I don't want, I don't want, I don't want. In politics it plays out. I can guarantee you that whatever party doesn't want, that's what they focus on, and guess what they get more of?
What they don't want.
That happens across the freaking board. Okay, and then they wonder why nothing changes. They wonder why there's division, because that's all they focus about. is on division. Name calling, labeling, blaming, both sides. Okay?
But a lot of that is done on purpose.
Well, yeah, it is.
Because you don't want, when you get to that situation, you don't want it to flow, because you wanna have.
Well, yeah, there's agendas. There's agendas for it not flowing.
Just- Yeah, that's it.
Okay? But you know what? Our egos will develop their own agendas too. Because our egos know, oh, no, you can't do that. No, you've always been this way. You're supposed to have this. No, it's too scary to really put yourself out there and stand up for yourself. No, it's too scary to own your voice. No, it's too scary to go after a dream or to start a new business. You'll never do it. You can't do it. Okay? So that ego, well intended to protect us, doesn't protect us at all. Gives us the illusion of protection, which is totally false. But by calling it out and by saying, that's bull crap, that's BS, don't believe you anymore, but we're going to be okay. See? You don't have to get angry at your ego. You don't have to shame and guilt your ego. Your ego's always been there. It's still always going to be there. You can never separate from it. But what do? You bring it in alignment. Hey, ego, it's okay. We don't have to be afraid anymore. The truth is, we can take 100% responsibility. We can think a different way. We can practice a new way with words. We can start to show up available, and everything's going to be okay. You don't need to be afraid anymore. I've said that to myself. Little Johnny, it's going to be okay.
Me too.
It's okay. And you even kind of laugh a little bit. So you don't have to shame or guilt or resent yourself. In fact, you say, I love you. I love you. Everything's going to be okay. Look, we've been on this road. What we're doing hasn't worked. Everything's going to be okay. And the more consistent you are with that voice, the less you'll start to hear the ego. And the lower the ego voice, you know, the ego's always screaming at us, right? The more you speak to it and quiet it and tell it how much love is really available and how much abundance and prosperity and clarity and opportunity is really out there, because it all comes from inside anyway. We don't have to look outside for it. It starts to get quiet. It starts to believe, and it starts to align.
You control your ego.
Yeah, we have a large impact on how that shows up. Anybody else with a good example of being available or unavailable for something?
I work with people at the end of life. And so recently I had a lady who passed away right next to me, and when I'm in that moment, I am so available. I am right there with that person, and so that is a time that I do show up very available.
And this happens, it takes a very special person
Yes.
to show up available for that kind of work. And so Stacy shows up emotionally, right? She's safe here. If Stacy was an emotional wreck on the inside, she couldn't be present with somebody who's transitioning, and the emotions of that person and the emotions of the family members that might be around. She'd be in no condition to deal with that. If Stacy wasn't intellectually available, understanding what's happening in the body, understanding what's happening in the brain, understanding the flow of that transition from life, onward, she wouldn't be able to be available for that experience. If Stacy didn't have the skills, the ability to talk, the ability to listen, the ability to share,
The ability to be.
to just be there,
To just
present,
be, that's the best.
to be present. So that's a great example of showing up available and what that looks like. And how every time that happens, you probably flip a little switch that says, now's the time. Boom.
It just like happens when I walk into that room, and it just happens that I'm just there.
Right.
That's gonna be,
That's
that's gonna
amazing
be
work.
extremely tough. Not only that, but the patient passes, but then you have the family, and it's, even though they know it's gonna happen, it's still rough.
Yeah.
Really.
And for us who might not have the skills that Stacy has to show up available, we would be totally maybe unavailable for that experience. We wouldn't want to know what to do, what to think, what to feel, what to say, how to be. But because Stacy has practiced and she deliberately sets the intention to show up available for those people that she serves, she's able to bring her full self into the experience. See, that's what being available really means. Anybody else?
Well, I have learned to be available for myself, which has made which have made people that I really care about more available towards me in a strange way. How things, I think you were saying something last week about releasing, how things you can release something and it will come back around in a way that is new. And I have this past month, I have decided to make myself available to myself in the present time.
Okay.
And it has changed a lot.
What's been the biggest change that you've experienced?
My wife. We have had a great time this past month.
Okay.
Um,
Congratulations. That's good.
You know, it's,
Compared to last month on a scale of 1 to 10.
It's a 10.
This month was a 10. Last month?
Compared to
About a
last
year ago.
month. A year ago.
There goes.
Like, it doesn't even, I stopped asking myself why. And stay in the present and where I'm at. Because it doesn't really matter what has happened, because I can't change it. But what do I want for myself? And I have to make myself available, open to fear, maybe rejection, maybe not going the direction I wanted to go, and not trying to dictate what I want it to be, and just kind of go with the flow, but be available,
Right.
you know, for me, and it's amazing how you just said a little thing, just changed, just a little mindset that you didn't know that you was affecting so many people.
Mm-hmm. Who else is it affecting?
Oh, my daughter, work, basketball team. It's incredible. I mean, it has been, doing this Airbnb, and it's amazing how you can just change your mindset of just being in the present.
Right.
Forget about the whys and it's the ego that wants a explanation.
Yeah.
But you really don't want it because you already got your story. So it doesn't matter really what anyone says. Because you already, to ask the question is, you have your story already.
Mm-hmm.
So I refuse to have that story.
Just to piggyback on that, I think what he said about being available to yourself, you don't even have to say anything to anybody. When your mindset changes like that, people feel a different you.
Feel it.
And so they naturally, they connect to you in a different way. And the people that you are
You mean people change when you change? Wait a minute, is that what she just said?
the people most intimately connected to you immediately, it reciprocates itself just by you changing your thinking.
But it's so it's for me, it's strange.
Yeah.
How little, you know, how someone was waiting for you. And so you clicked it as if it finally clicked. And then it was
You had the power all along.
all along. It was
You were waiting for
always,
them
it
and-
was always there. I had no power.
Class dismissed. I mean, you guys got it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
There you go.
This is exactly the principle in action that we're talking about. And every Monday night we touch on something related to it, but this is the sum total of what happens when we decide to look at things differently, okay? And we decide to show up available and open instead of our old closed self in the present moment. We literally, by universal spiritual law, things have to move, and they do. People have to respond differently to us when I'm different. Your family responded different to you once you shifted.
Yeah.
You could have been yelling at them till you're blue in the face. Why don't you change? You need to change. And typically that's what we do. You need to change. You need to change. You need to change. And what happens? Nobody changes.
It's never me. It's
But
always
the
you.
instant
It's always
we
you.
assume 100% responsibility for the engagement and for the results, and we go, I'm changing no matter what. Why am I changing? Because of this. Okay?
Yep.
I don't fear rejection when I accept myself. It is impossible to reject me. You cannot reject me. It is impossible for you to reject me. Why? Because I'm not going to give you that power. Why? Because that power is mine to accept or reject myself. Okay? And once I've made the choice to accept, love, value, esteem, and respect myself, you can show up any way that you want to. That's on you. You do not have the power to reject me. You do not have the power to disrespect me. If you act in a disrespectful way, you're disrespecting yourself. And
Yeah.
again, I'll ping you right out of my existence. But when this is full, when we have high levels of self-respect, self-esteem, self-acceptance, and love, we can do what Kara did. We can do what David did. We can be present in the moment, and we can do that small shift that says that from closed to open. I'm closed, no, now I'm open. I'm full of trust, radical trust. Because again, radical trust comes from knowing I cannot be rejected. Radical trust comes from I am always learning and I'm always okay. Perfect things don't have to happen. Okay? That's what builds radical trust. That is the certainty in the uncertainty. The certainty in the uncertainty is the certainty on the inside. So when David said, I'm certain on the inside about who I am and how I want to show up and the results that I want to get and how I want to feel, because my REAL is lined up and it is strong. And it's okay, I'm safe. So I can show up differently and be present. I don't have to worry about the past.
This is what I learned. Because you know, it's your ego that says, you can reject me, but I'd be okay. But I'm not okay. But now you can reject me, but I'm okay. It's weird.
It is weird.
It's weird because
Yeah, it is weird.
I'm full of myself. I'm okay. When before I could say the same exact words, but I was miserable
Yeah.
because I wasn't really okay with myself. But I'm
Right.
saying to another person, it's the ego talking. Yeah, go do what you want to do. I don't need you. But inside you're going, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
Until you feel okay. And Because people feel it, they see it.
They see it.
When you say, I'm okay.
That's what but when your vibration changes, people sense it. And again, by law, they have to show up differently. Now, if they intend to keep vibrating in their old way, you're going to repel them, and they're not going to stay in your experience very long. Okay? But when you're vibrating and they decide to align with that, then a completely brand new relationship becomes possible.
Amazing.
Conversations change,
They change.
energy change,
Yeah.
they change,
Amazing.
there's more intimacy. Because I can be open or closed to affection, sex, and intimacy. All three are different things. Okay? But when I choose to align up and to know what I want and what I want to create, and I go, I'm going to set my intention. I want a different relationship, and I intend to show up different, and nobody else has to do anything. See? You actually give them permission to not change.
Right.
But they will.
They will,
Yeah, of course you will.
but I'm no longer attached to it. See?
Yeah.
I'm no longer looking for it, expecting it, having to have it as any evidence. Because I'm expecting the evidence on the inside. So, like last week, David said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to cut this cord to the old expectations. I don't know how they're going to show up yet. All I know is the way I've been showing up is unavailable and does not work for me anymore. So I'm going to change. I'm going to create the shift. And I'm going to release and let go of the old story. And voila,
Yep.
a new story now is unfolding.
Then you have a problem that I've had for the last 30 years. I have not been available for anything. I have been completely unavailable for anything, and it's cost me. I'd say for the last 30 years of my life, no more longer than that, I have not been available for anything. I'm just, my thoughts, my patterns, everything, and it's cost me dearly. Recently it's cost me horrible, but it took a pain like this to actually open it up and do something, look something positive about it.
And we've all been where Arch is. We'll all be where Arch is,
Hope not.
And it's a different, but we all have our own path to get to our point of learning. And I think the point that Arch mentions that is worth remembering is that being available or unavailable has a price. It has a cost. One is an investment, okay? The other is very expensive. Very expensive. Still learning though, and look, sometimes it's the only way we learn. Okay, thank you God for the worst things that have happened to me,
Yeah.
because they shaped me and brought me to who I am right now today sitting in this room. And absent one or two significant of those things, I could be a totally different person. Okay? So we can bless our path. We never have to curse our path. We can bless our path and kind of laugh and say, hey, well, that took me 50 some odd years to figure out, but that's okay. All in divine time and order. If I was supposed to have figured it out at 35, I would have. There's been no failure. There's been no mistakes. There's been some learning. But in the present moment, I can show up as available as I want to be and experience a whole new different reality. And so when you're scripting is writing as if we already have what we want. And I would recommend that you get a journal that means something to you. You write a dedication on the first page, and you start to write about what you want to create. Start to write as if you are already available for what you want. Write as if you are open and willing to become available for what you want. Write as if the reasons you're unavailable are already gone and that you release them and detach them. Use powerful affirmative phrases about who you are and what you want to create. I intend to show up available for what I want today. I intend to show up available for conversations today. I listen deeply and intently to everybody I have a conversation with today. I am active and present in the conversation. I listen for opportunities to help and serve. I wait and let them finish talking before I speak. Okay? You can describe any aspect of your personality or your experience in a powerful, affirmative way about how you want to show up as if you are already doing it. And then you read it back. And that aligns your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions with that magnetic, weird thing called the universe and the law of attraction. And you set an intention and you go out and practice. Just practice. There is no perfection. Remember, there's no such thing. But by practicing, you start to learn. You develop new skills. You literally start to rewire your brain. Your brain's not going to think anymore the way it used to think. Neither is yours. You've literally rewired it. Which makes some connections dead and gone forever. New connections alive. And potential connections are infinite now. Because you're available now for a totally different experience that you were previously unavailable to. You were completely clueless that they even existed. Because we get stuck in our stories. So as you go out there, y'all, practice. It's okay to be right where you are with whatever's going on in your life. Nothing's supposed to be perfect. Let that go. Take the opportunity for where you are, in fact, to appreciate who you are and what's going on. Laugh a little bit. Get a little insight to go, well, there it is. Isn't that interesting? Okay, how do I want to show up available for what I want right now? What new thoughts, new words, new beliefs, new actions, new behaviors, new feelings do I want to start to create in my life that will serve me, my highest good, and everybody else? Everyone here is a powerful creator, and you can create whatever you want. And I know that the more you focus on showing up available and practice that, the more your life will shift and amazing, wonderful opportunities, connections, relationships, love, peace, joy, health, sleeping better at night, wealth, abundance, and joy will just come to you like a flood. And I know that that's true. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. It's been a pleasure. Please remember the blue bowl, and I thank you very much.